الحمد لله الذي له جنود السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم واشهد أن لا إله إلا الله العلي الكريم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا صدق الله العظيم. Respectful honorable friends, brothers and sisters, in the ashar that just heard of Arif Billah Hazrat Aqtas Walana Shaki Muhammad Aqtas Rahmatullah alayhi, there was one word that was utilized towards the end in Urdu, which was the word jazb. And jazb means, the literal meaning of jazb is to absorb. And in the field of suluk and tasawwuf, jazb refers to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attracts his servant towards him and pulls him towards him and absorbs his heart towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from this ashar we can just see how far we are from the lives of the Ahlullah, what their desire was and what our desire is. They yearn for the jazb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draws them close to Him. But we find that there are other things and other distractions that have drawn us and made jazb of us towards it. And that is the theme and the topic of today's gathering, on the position of social media. My dear friends, since the time the technology has been about, I think that which has affected us most is the advent of social media. Social media, something which is also a bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a sense. Something that doesn't just affect a certain class of people or certain age group of people, but it affects each and every single one of us, young and old, male and female. It has taken over our lives. You can say social media has made judge of all of us. The way, in the manner in which we are so attracted to it and so attached to social media. My dear friends, the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala had inquired from Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala with regards to intoxication. And intoxication, there are two things that the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anticipated that a change is going to come in the ruling with regards to these two things. One is the position of alcohol, the position of intoxication in Islam. And the other was with regards to the change of the Qibla, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had, and the Muslims would direct themselves towards Masjid Aqsa, Baytul Maqdis, for 17 to 16 months from the time when they were in Madinatul Munawwara. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala had actually asked Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam that what will become of the status of those people who passed away performing their salah facing Baytul Maqdis after the ruling came of facing towards Masjid Haram. This was something that they had asked Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam with regards to those people, and the other was that they asked with regards to those people who had passed away in the battles of Badr and Uhud, whilst they had already drunk, because the complete prohibition of intoxications had not been revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as yet. So the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala questioned Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with regards to these two groups of people. And why only these two groups? Because they anticipated that a ruling will come with regards to a change in these two matters. So initially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it came to intoxications, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not prohibit it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the nature of alcohol. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes, just gives a description of it. No prohibition as of yet. And the description Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions with regards to all forms of intoxication is that in it there is benefit. There is no doubt that there is benefit in alcohol and consuming alcohol. But وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. But the harms of it outweigh the benefits of it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just gave a description of it. There was no prohibition. Although there were some companions of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, who stopped drinking from that moment. But since that it wasn't actually prohibited outright, there were those who continued with it. Now we don't want to go, and the topic is not on intoxications. But this description that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave with regards to alcohol, that there is benefit in it, but the harms outweigh the benefit. So what would happen now is that the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala would watch and control how and when they drank. And later we find the next verse which was with regards to Salah. لَا تَقْرَبُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى. Do not come to Salah whilst you are in a state of intoxication. So the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, now they would make a timetable as to when is appropriate for us to drink and when not to. So to ensure that they do not drink just before it is time for Salah, so that when they come into the Masjid they're not intoxicated, they're not drunk. So they would time themselves. Not like us, our timing is that we make sure we leave the house and we start the cigarette. And when we are outside the door of the Masjid, and to try and get as many puffs as possible, so it doesn't go to waste. And then what do we do? While the stench is still there, and then what we do? We down half a bottle of iter over us. I've seen one individual actually applying the iter on his lips. Actually applying the iter on the lips. I've seen it with my own eyes. And my dear friends, this combination of tobacco and iter combined together, this is the worst thing. So again, first of all, the actual fatwa is that it's not permissible. But anyhow, there might be those who make sure that they could take it also a long time before they come to the Masjid in order not to disturb other people and cause harm to the individuals. So now the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, they would also control how much they would drink and when they would drink, until finally it was totally outlawed. In the same way we have social media today, which is an advancement in technology. Such advancement which we probably would not have comprehended 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Of how, and one example is the various incidents that happened during the time of Hajj. That we are sat here in Walsall, and something that just happened moments ago, in the Haram itself, we are aware of what's happening, and those who are in that same area, in the same place, are not even aware of what is happening. That is how we have advanced when it comes to technology, how we have advanced with regards to conveying and receiving information. That in moments we know what is exactly happening in other parts of the world. Now when it comes to the position of social media, this is the topic that's been given today and fixed today, which is also one very necessary as well, because I mentioned it is something that affects each and every single one of us. Now we can apply the same very verse that I've mentioned to you to social media as well. And that is, we will not say that it is something that is unlawful and to prohibit it. But as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described it, that look, there is benefits and there are harms in it as well. And because there's two in it, and the harm, however, outweighs the benefit of it. Hence we then need to adopt the method of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, who will then control the intake of alcohol. So that we take the benefit aspect of it only, and we ensure that when it comes to the harm of it, we are safeguarding ourselves from the harm of it. Just the way we have medication. And every medication on the packet will give you various warnings as well, and there's also warnings of side effects. And there is also a warning there that the person should stick to the amount of dosage that has been prescribed to one. So the same medication, if taken within the dosage that has been prescribed by the medics, that medication will be beneficial for us. However, if we overdo it, and we go beyond that and we take more than we expect we need to. When a person is so ill, and the doctor has mentioned take 2 pills 3 times a day, but we have too much impatience, and we want to get well very soon. So we say, no, instead of 2 pills 3 times a day, I'll take 4 pills 3 times a day, so I'll get better sooner than later. And the reality is, he will get better. He will be permanently better. He'll become permanently better. So, we are hateful, but in order to get the benefit of it, we have to take it in the prescribed dosage. Take more than the prescribed dosage, then what's going to happen is the same thing that is beneficial is going to become harmful for us. Social media, my dear friends, is exactly the same. As long as it is utilized in the correct form and in the correct proportion, it is something, a tool that will benefit us. And we see how it has benefited and how it does benefit the propagation of Islam and Deen as well. Even now, we are utilizing such media in order for where we have a confined audience. Now, by means of such outlets, we are able to pass on the message of Deen and Islam far and wide, where people are other parts of the world, and they can also be with us and joining in with us in the understanding of Deen and Islam. So there are very many benefits of it. But at the same time, what is most important here is discipline and is our control. How we control our usage of social media. As beneficial as this is, more than that it is detrimental for us. And when it comes to the harms of social media, I will mention some to you, but majority of them will be such that we all are aware of it. We don't really need to be told this. Each one actually knows themselves what I'm about to say, and we all know ourselves what are the harms of social media. Just sometimes maybe we need somebody else to drill it into our minds for us to fully understand what is right and what is wrong. In a hadith of Sayyid Bukhari, Sayyid Nu'man bin Bashir radiallahu ta'ala, the race of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, the Nabi Kareem says that al-halalu bayin wal-haramu bayin. That when it comes to what is halal and haram, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already ordained that it's fixed. We know what is halal, we know what is haram. And then, وَبَيْنَهُمَا مُشَبَّهَاتٌ. And one riwayat mushtabahat. But between the halal and haram, there are certain things which are doubtful. Certain things which we are not sure as yet. Or that a person may have some doubts with regards it either being halal or whether it is haram. وَكَثِيرٌ مِنْ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, Nabi Kareem mentions. But with regards the ruling of this, there are many people who are unaware of what the actual ruling is, or unaware of what needs to be done at that time. The Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions in this riwayah that whoever abstains and saves himself from such doubtful aspects, that which is not clearly halal and which is haram, the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ دِينُهُ وَإِرْضُهُ, that he has then safeguarded his iman, his deen. And along with his deen, he has safeguarded his own honor. So that if he saves himself from such things, he has protected not just his deen. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions deen and honor. 2 things that he safeguards himself from. And we'll come back to these 2 things, inshallah, as we go on. And then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, but the one who actually goes towards those things which are doubtful, then what will happen is, he is like that shepherd. The shepherd who has his flock. But when he takes his flock to graze, he takes them very close to a private pasture. A private piece of land which has been designated for somebody else and for his animals. But this shepherd, when he takes his animals there, the animal doesn't know what boundaries are. The animal is just going to see the grass on the other side of that boundary. They're just going to see the lustful and the beautiful, the tasty. For us it's not tasty, but for that animal it is that is tasty for them. So they're going to see that tasty grass there, and it is obvious that when they are close to the next person's pasture, they're going to enter into that pasture. And then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, "Ala inna li kulli malikin himan," that every king has his own pasture. That in the past, a king, when he would see some green land somewhere, or nice area, or some field and that, then he would, out of oppression, he would take that land and he would utilize it for his own animals. And he would put a boundary around it or some indication towards it. So Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that each king has his pasture of land as well. And at the same time, Ala inna lillahi fi ardihi himan. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also has such land and pasture on his earth. And that is what? That is those things that are haram. That is those things that are haram. Meaning that Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions here that there is a boundary. That animal needs the grass that is there, that is his life. His life is based on that, needed on that, and it is going to eat from that. But as long as that animal remains within one specific area, is going to be safe. But the moment that the animal or the shepherd then goes close to the next person's land, then that animal is such that it is going to naturally go off into that boundary there. And if it goes off into the boundary of the king, then you know that he's going to have a nice barbecue that night. And the shepherd, he's also going to be slaughtered along with it. Why? Because he's been too... And what's happened here? He did not take precaution. He should remain in safe land. But he was too close to the land of the next person. And then Nabi Karim mentioned, Ala inna fil jasadi mudghah. In our bodies there is a flesh. And this flesh is such, in salahat salat jasadu kullu, in fasadat jasadu kullu, ala wa hiya al-qalb. That usually we just hear this part of the hadith, we do not hear the actual full hadith. That there is this flesh, and if this flesh is correct, then the entire part of our body is correct. If this is corrupted, then the entire body is corrupted. Now here, my dear friends, this hadith helps us with regards when it comes to matters of social networking. When Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions the importance of those boundaries, that as long as a person remains, and here the shepherd keeps his flock within the right boundary, then he has nothing to be concerned of, but rather his flock will benefit from the grass that is there. If we remain within the correct boundary, then we will also be able to benefit from the various social outlets that we have, the various media that is Allah Ta'ala has made available for us. But then, when we start getting close to the unlawful boundary, that's when we're asking for trouble. And when we get to that point, that's when the benefits of it are going to outweigh, the harms of it is going to outweigh the benefits of it. And we see this, my dear friends. How do we see this? In some of the things that we find, it's like the ashar we just heard of an arif of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a great friend and wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is that our purpose is that our heart should be attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That constantly we are thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And constantly thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mean that we just sat with us reading Allah the entire time. It means that we are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anything that comes in between our consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is now an obstacle, that is something that we need to remove. Because that is becoming an obstacle between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These same media outlets that we have, the apps that we have, our phones that we have, again a bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but how it also becomes a hindrance between our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simple example, and that is how when we come into the masjid, no matter, it doesn't matter how many times it is announced or how many signs we see as well that please switch off your mobile phones, please switch off your mobile phone. Hardly, very few there will be those who actually switch it off. We don't switch it off. This is just, look how that phone has just, and my dear friends, there was once a time when people did not have mobile phones. For some it might seem, Back to the Future or something. But there was a time wherein people did not have mobile phones. Never mind that, but there was also a time wherein in one street, maybe in Earl Street, maybe only one person had a telephone.
Sorry, I missed that.
In case you missed that. Maybe just one or two people had telephones. And that one or two telephones would be utilized for the entire street. So they would use that for the entire street. So any phone call comes from there, and what happens is they quickly run and the kids go and call, if there's a phone for you, or they're going to call back in 5 minutes. So there was such a time. So for the youngsters, there was at a time when not every person had a telephone in his house. And then later everyone had a landline. But alhamdulillah, people still managed to live. People still managed to live. They lived contentedly and they lived happily as well. So do not think that if we think that we cannot live without this, there were those people who did live, managed to live, and many more than who are living with it, lived without it as well. So it is possible. But unfortunately, this has overtaken us to such an extent that truly we cannot live today without it. This is how our condition has become, that we ensure that whatever happens, that it has to be with us. If that is not with us, then our hearts stop. Our hearts will actually stop beating if we know that our phones are not with us. And we cannot do until it is not with us. This is how attached, and this is how these things has made judge of us, has brought us close to it. Now, despite all the notices in the masjid, when we come into the masjid, we find that the place wherein we should be devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a musalli, when he does his takbir al-tahrima, whether he's in the masjid or whether it's one of our sisters at home, when we do takbir al-tahrima, and when we raise our hands, one of the hikmahs mentioned of this gesture is what? So that when we raise our hands, we are putting behind us the world. That we've left our teaching, we've left our work, our taxing, our shops, whatever we've been involved in. For that short period of time, we've come into the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hence we now put the world behind us until we make salam and we come back into this world. So the gesture is there that we put the world behind us. But it is just a mere gesture that we are doing. Because we've done that. But whether our pocket is here or our pockets are here, the entire world is still with us. The entire world is still there with us. We have not put that behind. It is for that reason that we do not have the courage to switch it off. The most that we do is we put it on silent. And that too silent is too silent, so we need to put it on vibration. And this vibration itself is a tone. It is so loud that if somebody's phone vibrates on one side of the masjid, you can hear it on the other side. It's just like a normal ringtone. But what happens there? We've said Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest, and we've now standing in front of the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the whole time, our minds, we all know where our minds are. Our minds are still on there. Our mind is still on the fact that, look, this was the last message that I said just before I entered into the masjid. Never in the masjid, you will find those people who are walking in the subway. Once walking in the subway, they're typing. That's how attached we are to it. Not only that, there are those individuals, again, something I've seen myself, who are sat in the masjid. They are sat in the masjid, and what they do? In the masjid, they're keeping an eye on the football scores. In the masjid, they're keeping an eye on the football scores. So in Jummah time, the lecture is going on, and somebody's there on the phone the whole time, and they're conversing away on their phones whilst the Jummah khutbah is taking place. So whilst we're in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ensure that before we start the takbir tahrima, make sure that we send off or we read the last beep that has come onto our phones. And because we didn't get enough time to reply to it, in our entire salah, our minds is just on that how should I reply, what should I reply? Or if we have replied, then what reply will have come? And as soon as that then vibrates in our pockets, our entire mind is gone off salah. As the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, when azan takes place, then shaitan, he runs away from there. He lets it from there. And he breaks wind as well. He has no control of himself, and he breaks wind and he runs away from when azan takes place. After azan, he comes back again. Iqamat starts, he runs away, and then he comes back again. And then when he comes back again, then he comes and he says to a person, Uzkur kaza, Uzkur kaza, Uzkur kaza. Remember such, so remember such, remember such. We, my dear friends, mean that he'll make us remember things that we may not have remembered prior to it. We have made things very easy for shaitan now. We have made it very easy for shaitan now. If he wants to, he can take a break. If he wants to, he can stay outside the masjid. He doesn't need to come into the masjid anymore. Because each time that thing vibrates in our pocket, already our minds are on that. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? What message will it be? Is it a tweet? Is it Instagram? Is it a Facebook beep? Is it a Twitter one? And now we can customize it as well, so now we don't have to worry. So we've taken that tension off as well. That we customize it so we know from the level of vibration as well, so we know, okay, it's not that reply because that person is on WhatsApp. So it can't be that person. No, it's a tweet instead, so it must be another tweet from somewhere else. So at least we know that it's not that person that we last spoke to. So that tension is off, but then the other tension is what will the next message be. And if it's somebody that rings us, and when that vibration, when the phone is vibrating, we find that vibrates and our hearts and our minds start vibrating as well. That starts vibrating as well. And we're not at all in our salah. There is no concentration at all in our salah. Our salah is only that who could that person be, who could that person be, who has miscalled me. And we even find people who are already in the first saf of the masjid, and somebody rings them, they take the phones out and they walk out of the masjid to answer the phone. We see that. We leave the masjid and we go out. Different matter if a person is expecting that there's going to be, when he left the house in such a way that he knew that any moment his right water might break. So now he kept it on because of that, for some reason like that. But majority of the time that's not the case. So a person is walking out of the masjid and he's going out to speak to somebody. And then when he comes back, he'll come back when he comes back once he's finished his conversation and he's come into the salah. I myself saw in the academy a person, somebody rang him, he came out and he went out of the masjid. And then later after we completed salah, we were going out, he was performing his salah in the library. Meaning that his entire first salah, entire salah with Jamaat he had missed. Now just imagine, he is in that position when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that if one knew the reward of performing salah in the first saf, people would fight with one another for it. Until you draw lots of who gets a chance to perform salah in the first saf. Our condition is different. Whenever it's the time for salah, there is a case, no, after you. Most gentlemen at that time, most casual at that time, no, after you, up there. We'll say at the back, it's okay, you go in front, you go in front. But whenever we're in the cinema lines in the queue there, or we're in any scenes in the queue there nobody's, no, it's okay, never mind, you go there. I've stood here the entire night, but never mind, you can go before me. There nobody will say, no, you before me. There is nobody makes ensure nobody goes before me. And here this person is already in that position in the first saf. And again, that vibration has sounded, and that has now taken him away from the reward of that first saf and the takbir al-ula and all the reward with it. And then he'll come back, and most of the time it's not even an emergency. Majority of the time it's not an emergency. And now he comes back in the masjid, and when he comes back, he'll probably be in the courtyard. Just see how he's been deprived of the reward that he could have had because he was already there in the first saf. This is, as I mentioned to you, this is a couple of examples of how we are so attached to this. And how it is creating a hindrance between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned that when a person performs salah, and in his salah, he's performing his salah like anybody else. But his mind is not there. His mind is elsewhere when he completes his salah. His discharge, his duty and his farz. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes that salah and he throws that on his face. Now take this back. I'm not in need of your salah. And Allah does not accept that salah and he throws it back on his face. And this is exactly what is happening, my dear friends. That Facebook is resulting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throwing our salahs back onto our faces. That's the harm that it's doing to us. And this is where we need to draw that balance, as I mentioned to you. Which land, which pasture do we want to be in? The pasture where we utilize these sources and these means for a beneficial cause, for our own benefit as well, with regards to how we correspond with people, or are we going to divert and we're going to go into those pastures wherein it's going to become detrimental and harmful for us. So this is just one example of how it affects us in Salat itself, and we know these examples. Simply when we recite in Quran as well, we sat there, and how many times we have to stop in Salah just because we take in our recitation of the Quran, because again, we're reading something else. We start again, and somebody else messages, we read something else, again we start reading somebody else's message. We just can't wait at all to complete what we are supposed to be doing, complete the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then go and see and read whatever needs to be done, whoever sent whatever to us. There is no emergency there. Our lives do not depend on it, but unfortunately, we have made our lives dependent on these things. That irrelevant of where we are and what we are doing at that time, that is something our life beats on that as well. The beat of the tone, our hearts beat with it as well. And this is how it affects us, my dear friends. It affects us in our obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, but it affects us as individuals. It affects our health as well. It affects our family life as well, our social life, our domestic life. How it affects our health. That those of us who are so addicted to this, and you will find so many times somebody who is online, last they saw their WhatsApp was 2 a.m., somebody 3 a.m., somebody 4 a.m. Last time the person posted something on Twitter or Facebook or so, again 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m. You just wonder what is that person doing awake 2, 3, 4 a.m. And the reality is that we are so attached to it, that we are glued to it, that we are addicted to it, that we just can't put it down. Hours and hours are spent at night just on these social media. I was reading what somebody else has tweeted, and more than what they have put on it is the comments that come with it. It's more the comments. And why? I'll come to that soon as well. So we are so attached to it. So our majority of our night, a great portion of our nights goes just in reading those or sending such messages, due to which we do not even get the right, correct form of sleep that we're supposed to have. Due to which the next day we are not up for it at all. We can't wake up for Fajr Salah. And when we do not perform our Fajr Salah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes our day difficult for us. And He's mentioned a person performs Fajr Salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the rest of his day easy for him. So the entire day is going to go in very difficulty because we miss the Fajr Salah. Why? Because we slept just moments before Fajr Salah. And this now has an effect on our health. For that reason we find that so many of our youth, in a very young age, they are suffering from depression, they are suffering from stress, from anxiety. And a lot of our younger generation are graying and growing older, a lot younger as well than previously. Why? Because there's so many other things that are taking us away from our comfort, the comfort that we need for our own physical bodies. The comfort that we need for our minds, there's things that have taken us away from it. And one of the things that has taken us away from this is this form of media. How attached and how we are to it. Physically it has an effect on us. And then when it comes to our own lives, our social lives, our family lives and domestic lives, my dear friends, then the reality is that it is a menace. The amount of harms that these type of apps and these forms of social networking sites, the disaster and the destruction it has caused within our homes, my dear friends, I think anything else has caused so much destruction. And this is a reality. We call it Facebook. I will say that Facebook is not a social site, but it is a dating site. It is more of a dating site than it is a social site. Why? Because the amount of people, the amount of marriages that have broken from Facebook is unbelievable, my dear friends. The amount of good individuals, good youth who have become corrupted because of this menace is unbelievable, my dear friends. This is how dangerous this is. Again, it is, if you're going to be very close to that pasture, the animal there does not have the understanding. The animal is just in grass here, the animal is just in grass there. The animal is going to wander into that pasture. Our nafs is the same. We are the same. And we cannot at times understand the boundaries that are there. And we then wander. And in that wandering, we wander very close to where we're not supposed to be. And then when we get to that point, we go off in a direction that now we didn't realize it, but we've ended up in the wrong place where we should not have been. And that's when you see how things go wrong for us. And these social sites, my dear friends, this is exactly what it has done. It is what it has done. And let us not be fooled. And I am quite vocal with regards to this matter. That let us not be fooled that there is a lot of benefit in it. We may argue and we say that Facebook, for instance, throughout the day, how many ahadith are propagated on Facebook or Twitter and the like? How many ayahs of the Quran and other dini matter is propagated on Facebook? But my friends, let us ask ourselves, when there wasn't Facebook, people were still practicing their deen. People were still practicing deen. But they were practicing their deen in the condition that they were also safeguarded. They were safeguarded. They were happily married as well. And now, under the guise of propagating deen, no, it's a good outlet. And majority of the brothers, this is what they tell their wives. No, I'm using it for a good thing. I'm following Sheikh so-and-so. And each day I'm getting some advice from him. And I'm getting to read a hadith from him, or getting to read some other words of wisdom from him. So, you can't stop me from this. So I'm doing a good deed. But we know exactly what deed we are doing. As I mentioned to you, we are reading that hadith, and we've acquired the nur of that hadith. But immediately after that, now we scroll a little further down, and when we scroll to the comments, and when we scroll down to the comments, each person that is on such Facebook or what else, each one wants to make sure that everybody knows how he or she looks as well. How each one looks. And whether it's a bloke or whether it's a male or a female, nobody's going to put a picture of them for how they look first thing in the morning, how when they woke up. But they're going to ensure that they put the best of pictures on it. And at times, sometimes we ensure that we pose for it. Once there was a pose where a person knows that this person is posing for a photo to be taken. Now the new pose is that we make as if we're somewhere else. Isn't it? We make it as if we're somewhere else. We're actually posing for that person to take that picture, and we're somewhere else, kind of like, somewhere else. So we ensure that type of a picture. And if the mothers and sisters, the most beautiful picture that we have available of us, that has to be the one. Nobody wants to put an ugly picture, or what all the makeup is on there. Without that, it has to be the most prettiest picture that we have. And that is what we have put there. My dear friends, tell me, we all know ourselves. Well, I'm talking about myself, maybe addressing a crowd of people who are not at the same position, maybe the same position as myself. But alhamdulillah, I'm not on Facebook, and neither on Twitter either. The most is WhatsApp, and that's all. And my dear friends, we all know what goes on. We read the hadith, we've read the ayat of the Quran, and then immediately after that we're scrolling down, and we're seeing all the various pictures that are there. And we see those pictures, and how many times has the cursor then gone onto that picture as well to see that picture a bit enlarged. And then we go off onto that person's profile to find out more about that individual. And then we might send some friend, or add the friend, or some wink or something there, in order to just find out and test the waters. This is what happens. What benefit was there of us reading that hadith that was there? If we had not read that hadith, we would not have been any difficulty, any harm, or any danger whatsoever. We've read that. But then we've wandered off in the next pasture, by which now we are seeing and we are now communicating with other individuals who we should not be communicating with. And this is exactly what is happening. This is how so many marriages are on the brink of breaking or have actually broken, just because of this menace in the form of Facebook. And how an individual can control his nafs. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this here, look, that if this is corrupt, then the entire body is going to be corrupt. Your mind and your heart and your fingers and everything is going to be corrupt then. You've said the hadith, and this is how he starts off. This is how shaitan works. And how is that? No. I'm propagating deen. So I send a hadith off. And when the hadith is sent, then somebody, the sister, will reply back by saying, Jazakallah, brother. And we reply by saying, Ameen, sister. She says, keep up the good work. We reply, Inshallah, if you make dua for me, sister. Then she will reply back to him, yes, I'm making dua for you. Meaning that she's thinking of it. Now imagine how much, she might be sincerely making dua for us, but our mind is naturally going to go somewhere else and look, she's thinking of me. And then we reply back by saying, Jazakallah, sister. And inshallah, I will make dua for you as well, sister. Then she will say, Jazakallah, you're doing good work. And then again we reply back to her, sister this, sister that. And that conversation goes on, until eventually it's moved away from there and then it goes off into the inbox. Then all the communication goes off into the inbox. Then is a case of, she might say to you, she thinks you are very righteous and pious, so she will say that, look, I have a certain issue, I want some advice on, or can you make dua for me in a certain matter? So is it okay if I inbox you? And we're just waiting for that. And now when she inboxes, now all the private conversation goes on and we know what may happen there. Marriages are breaking up in this way, my dear friends. One learned individual, I'm not talking about a learned individual, his marriage broke off because of this reason. And this was somebody who I knew, this individual, and had some type of communication with this individual. And this was one of those individuals that you find at very weird hours of the day. You find that they are on social media. And his marriage broke up mainly on that basis, that his wife has suspected that he has a relationship or he's in communication contact with somebody who he should not be with. He denied it. But things went to that extent that they actually broke up and the marriage broke off. And long after that, he actually comes to me and he actually mentioned that the same person that his wife has suspected, he says that I have a desire that I want to get married to her. What do you advise me? What do you advise? I said, well, look, you say you denied there was anything going on at that time, which is fine, we believe you. But now how coincidentally it is the same very person that you feel and you desire to get married to. Even if nothing was going on at all between the two of you, now you will get married, the whole world is going to see that, look, this is what happened. And that's what Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions. Whoever saves himself from these things, then he has safeguarded his deen, wa irzihi, and his honor as well. He has safeguarded his deen and his honor as well. You might just be reading the hadiths on that, and the ayats on that. But your wife is still going to suspect you. Or if the wife is reading these things, the husband is still going to wonder and want to ask, who is she seeing, who is she reading, whose profile is she going on? And that's why Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and maybe nothing is going on at all, but he says that one who has saved himself, he remains in the right pasture. He safeguards his deen and his honor as well. And as I mentioned to you, how this has become a dating site. My own few experiences I should mention to you, everybody else will know many more. How it has wrecked marriages. And this is something that it does not just affect the young. Sometimes we think, oh, this is just for the youngsters. This is just for the youngsters. How many elderly we find, how many elderly people we find who have just learned to use the mobile phone just because of these social sites, who prior to that could not use a mobile phone, and they're not bothered of using the mobile phone. But now they want the mobile phone, and that to not the old Nokias and that. But now we all want smartphones. We all want smartphones now. So that it's only on a smartphone that you're going to be able to get all these type of things on. The elderly are involved as well. My dear friends, there was a case that came to me. A 50-year-old woman. 50-year-old woman in a marriage. And in that marriage now what happens, she goes on to Facebook. She has her profile on Facebook. Now she sees the benefits of Facebook. And in that what happens now, she remembers an old flame of hers, somebody in the past, in the days in Pakistan. She was initially from Pakistan. Somebody that she went to school and university with. And there was some attraction at that time, but it was not meant for them. So now, this is what Facebook is. It connects, connecting people. But how is it connecting? This woman who's here in this part of the world moved on from there for so many years in her marriage with her children and everything. She goes on to Facebook. She finds him. She finds him and she starts communicating with him. And that communication, and the husband is just so, no, he's just somebody I went to school with. Nothing there. He's just like a brother to me. Because we grew up together. We grew up together. All that brother, sister. We know how much brother, sister it is. When we look at the picture, do we look at her as her sister? Does she look as if this is my brother? We know that's not the case. They're just there, brother, sister, to make it halal. They're just there to make it Islamic, in other words. To make it Islamic. Like we just said a couple of days ago. Well, happy Islamic year. Happy Islamic year. So we just change it. Others say Happy New Year, we just added the word Islam. No, we're wishing Happy Islamic New Year. So the brother and sister is just there to cover it up, dear friends. Now this 50-year-old woman, dear friends, now communication begins with this person. And then it leads to what? It led to the state wherein she left her husband in the city in UK. She left him and she flew all the way to Pakistan to be with him. 50-year-old woman. You're not talking about young lovebirds or something. 50-year-old woman connects. He's reconnected to her. And she leaves her husband, her children as well. And she travels all the way to Pakistan to meet up with him. Now he that is there, he's enjoying himself communicating with her. He didn't expect that she's going to be so serious as well. Because he's there, he's just there for his own enjoyment that he wants. He's married there as well. So now, she leaves everything and she comes there and she ends up at his doorstep. And when she ends up there at the doorstep, then it's a case of, I don't know you. Who are you now? You're just my Facebook friend. And now what happens? Disgrace, she comes back and she has to come back to her husband. They did divorce after that, which is what's going to happen. But my dear friends, how did this start off? That was somebody of the past gone. But now what has happened is 50 years, she's in her 50s now. And it is the same Facebook that we regard to be just something fine. We just got our own profile there, we're just communicating with people. And look how it reconnected this person to somebody after so many years. Reconnected somebody in such an unlawful manner. If it is affecting people of that age, it will affect each and every single one of us, my friends. And this is how this is affecting many marriages, different, not just a few marriages, many marriages. Many marriages, and you find a lot of households are complaining with regards to this menace in the home of people being constantly on such types of apps and such sort of sites, communicating with one another and communicating with one another in the wrong and incorrect manner. Matters which are of privacy within a home are divulged on there. In actual fact, there is no privacy at all. We are so addicted to it, my dear friends. And it has taken us over so much, as the Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned, that when haya is no longer there, then do not expect a person to be modest. A person then has no modesty at all. Certain matters which are private matters, things that a person enjoys with people close, these are the same very things we share that with the entire world. And that's how we become. And we see that as well, our entire lives. Nowadays, nobody needs to ask one another, what's going on in your life. You just see from their pictures. Just go on their WhatsApp and you know exactly. Okay, but look, he's now got engaged. He's now got engaged. And then you just look at that, now he's not married. And now his wife is expecting. And now he or she is a boy or a girl. Or now this person is in Dubai. Or now they're in India. Or now they're in Delhi. Or now they're in Lahore. And now they're back at home. Now they're in Walsall. You know exactly where they are and what they're doing, because every aspect of our lives we are just broadcasting into the entire world. And again that same selfies. So every person should know exactly what we're doing. That's how fixed we are with it. My dear friends, when we come into Masjid as well, we take a photo of Masjid al-Farouq and we set down, look, I'm outside Masjid al-Farouq at the moment. And then we take another picture, I'm in the shoe racks, I just put my shoes in, and so people who are in this, who are send their footsteps so you can follow their footsteps. Here we don't talk about Tera Ashik ko Medina, Tera Ashik ko Marna. Here the whole world is following our footsteps. Look, this time I'm having a coffee in this bar, in this cafe. Now I'm in this place there, and you send the map and everything so everybody knows exactly where we're going. So now I'm in the courtyard of Masjid al-Farouq. And now we sat here, and now we listen to this, so now maybe we're not texting anything at the moment, but just imagine what might go on afterwards as well. Every aspect, where we are, where we're going, everything of it is on there. To that extent, my dear friends, just a couple of months ago, a wife had contacted me mentioning that certain private matters between her and her husband, he shares even that with his friends, and not only that, but they have a score chart between them. A score chart between them. And these are not individuals who we may regard in our term, in our definition that these people are who are far from deen. No, by far from, my dear friends. These are same very families and individuals who we see in the physical appearance and we think that they have some deen in them. And this is their condition, that is what's happening, my dear friends. And all these things have been shared on these things. This is the menace that I mentioned to you. This is how detrimental and how dangerous this is, my dear friends. And not only that, when it comes to haya, it is so to remove any form of consciousness, haya, courtesy, all good qualities from us. And we see that. We see that, and we have just seen it ourselves. The various incidents that took place in the haram. Various incidents took place in the haram. And my dear friends, this is just shocking to see how low we have stepped, my dear friends. How low we have stepped, my dear friends. That there are people who are dying. There are people who are injured, covered in blood. There are people who are already dead in front of our eyes. And we are calm as anything. And even then we are able to take out our phones and get to the cameras and the videos. And in the midst of bodies lying in front of us, we are just stood there and we are taking videos of all the carnage and that is taking place, my dear friends. People are sat there, they're covered in blood, wanting somebody to give them a hand and help them. But our condition is such, no. I want you to die, so I can be the first person to take a video of the person dying. This is what happens. We'll take a video of somebody dying, so that we can upload that on YouTube, the man dying on the streets. This is exactly what we do. Nobody will go there and help him. If there's some argument taking place, some fight taking place, an accident has taken place, we'd rather film the entire accident. We'll film the person injured and the person dying, so rather than going and helping that individual. There in the haram itself, our own Muslim brothers and sisters are injured there, in shock. And instead of us going there just asking them, is there anything I can do for you? Instead we stood there and we taking photos of them. And within moments, those photos are reaching other parts of the world. Just imagine, somebody who is sat here, my dear friends, and his mother or his father or his brother or sister is injured there at that time, and that picture reaches them. Imagine what a shock they will get at that time, seeing them in that condition. People have been killed, they have died, and due to the injury, maybe not the scene there is of carnage. Is there no such thing as respecting? We are standing in front of the Baytullah, the same Baytullah which Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, that the honor of a Muslim is greater than the honor of the Baytullah. The honor of a Muslim is greater than the honor of the Baytullah. But in front of the same Baytullah, we are dishonoring that Muslim by taking such gruesome and such bad pictures of such people, and then we are sending it off throughout the world. So we want to be the first ones who capture it and the first ones to spread it out. This is what happens, my dear friends, how morality drops and steeps to such an extent. My dear friends, we just see one dead body in front of us, or one shouted mayyit when we read Janazah Salah. And that shocks us, that reminds us of our death. Here people are seeing bodies after bodies piled up in front. But we would be shocked at that time. One is just shocked to the fact that, look, it could have been us, but we were on this side and not that side. We should be just getting over that fact. And we should be there in shock that, look, these people, they've left this world moments ago, they were standing and now they're no longer here. We should be thinking of our akhirat. We should be thinking of what with us. But no. Meaning those dead bodies are not even affecting our hearts. This is the menace, my dear friends. This is how it has killed our hearts. That when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, look, go to the Qabristan for what? So to remind you of your death. Here never mind Qabristan. We're seeing bodies in front of us, but we're still so calm that we're able to take out our phones, put it on the best resolution. And not that we're shaking because we're out of some fear and we're shocked or so, but we're calm. And you'll see others taking photos as well, of other people who are just so calm, taking everything and getting it in. Death is left, right, center, but nothing is entering into the heart. This is how, my dear friends, this has killed our hearts. Spiritually it has killed us, it is killing us. It is connecting us to what we should not be connected with, and it is disconnecting us from what we're supposed to be connected with. This is how we have become, my dear friends. And I understand, today you had the health day. You had a health, so the two things. One is you've learned about physical good health. But this is also another health aspect, something that if we really want to have a good physical health and also a good spiritual health, then this is where we need to understand what the right posture is, my dear friends. Another indication is also that you've had a long day as well, I'm sure. That you had a long day as well. So my dear friends, this is from the hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as I mentioned to you. Nobody is saying that, look, all social media is outlawed and it is prohibited and it is haram. As I mentioned to you, the nature of it is such that there is forms of benefit in it. But we need to control ourselves. We need to discipline ourselves and remain in the right posture far away from where we're going to steep into the next section, where we know that now then it's just a world is going down, 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 where we're not going to be able to get ourselves out from. And if we are on these things as well, my dear friends, what we need to have discipline. We need to be able to control ourselves. Control when we do pick the phone up. Control when we do need to look at it. Control when we do need to reply and when we do need to answer as well, my dear friends. There are so many adab of correspondence that we need to learn when it comes to these things. And that is, for instance, another lens. Other people, they don't like to sleep because the whole night they spend in there and the whole night's on there. But that doesn't mean everybody else is as well. There are those people who want a good night's sleep. So just because you can't sleep during the night, and why you can't sleep during the night? Because you're waiting for that person's comments to come through. That's why you can't waste out the night, because you don't want to miss it as well. You need to make sure that you get it and you want to answer it as well. So you're waiting for that individual on there. So you can't get a good night's sleep, doesn't mean the others don't want to sleep. So what need is there for us to send a hadith to somebody 2-3 a.m.? 2-3 o'clock at night, people are sleeping, we're sending hadiths to people. Why are all the hadiths when it comes to when Nabi al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimuna bil-lisani wa yadihi? Why not send that to the hadith? Or understand that hadith before we send it to anybody else. That a Muslim is one who protects others from the mischief of his hands and that. And this is exactly what we are doing. The fact we can't sleep doesn't mean the other person can't sleep. What benefit is there for us to disturb that person at such time that we send all sort of various messages we send to people at such outrageous times where we're not realizing that we think we're doing good, but in actual fact we're causing taklif, we're causing harm to that difficulty to that individual, so we're going to get the sin for that as well. Somebody, even if it might be a pious person, passes away in Hindustan, Pakistan, where there are 4 or 5 hours, 5.5 hours, even 4.5, 5 hours ahead of us. They have passed away. They have met the now for us to be awakened at 2-3 o'clock at night, what are we going to book our flights and go to the janazah? We're not going to get there for the janazah. Why? What need is there for us to disturb everybody and send them the message of the demise of that person at such times of the day? There's no benefit in that at all. But no, because it's so-and-so Buzuga, so-and-so Maulana, or so-and-so, no, we have to send it. Who says we have to send it? My dear friends, one example I'll give to you of understanding. A certain youngster, he's worried to me. His father was ill for quite a while, and he passed away last week. His father passed away at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 something in the morning. Throughout the process, he'd been in communication with me. However, it was only 7 something after Fajr that he sent a message saying that, make dua and this whatever, that my father has passed away. After 7, he sent to us. Now, I was under the assumption that his father had passed away maybe in the early hours at that time. Later on, when I met him at Janazah, the reality is that his father had passed away at 2 at night. He was the only one that was there present at that time. His sisters and his mothers had gone home. He did not even text them and he did not inform them at all. He said that, look, it's going to be a long day for everybody. It's going to be a long day. If I inform them now, what is it going to do? We can't proceed with the janazah anyway till the morning, till everything materializes anyway. If I go and text them or if I phone them and disturb them now, they're going to come out of the sleep, break the sleep, come to the hospital, and they're going to have a long day ahead of them. Instead, he kept that from his own mother and his sisters as well, and he informed them Fajr time when he knew that they're awake now, so that they can at least have their sleep and they're fresh for the rest of the day. This is good understanding, my dear. This is good understanding. It's only after that we realize that he passed. We, never mind immediate people, we want the entire world to know. Yes, we have the desire that look, more and more people will do Isali Sawab, more and more people will make dua, which is understandable. But at that time of the night, more than dua, they might make dua for the deceased, but they might give you some other dua as well. for deserving the sleep. So these are things, my dear friends, which are very, very important, that along with the benefits of it, we understand the harms of it, the harms that it is affecting, how it affects our lives, the lives of our children. This is now, imagine in 5-10 years what the case is going to be, what's going to be happening. So, as Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, look, there is benefit, but there is harms as well. And when we know there is harms in it, then let us control and discipline ourselves. What we need to use, what we do not need to use. That which we know that, look, this is not beneficial for me. And I'm sure you'll all have in your mind as well, that look, there are many scholars and there are many ulama and that who are utilizing these apps and these sites as well. What about them? As I mentioned to you, look, we're not speaking about them. Okay? There are maybe those people who are, mashallah, very, very strong. That even in comments, I just saw what recently somebody sent to me, because I knew this talk as well, of somebody who had sent somebody. And in reply, another sister replied back, and after the reply, there were 5 hearts, the emojis, the hearts that were there. Now again, as I said, people may use it in normal terms nowadays. Now it's become different. We said in the past, X was something meant a lot. Now people just within themselves, everything is X. There's one person, a male, mashallah, a very good brother. But whenever he sends salams or whenever he texts me, he puts a cross as well. Now I'm sure his intentions are normal. I don't know what is supposed to be, a salam or something anyway. But in the past, that X meant a lot. And now when I just saw a screenshot of that, where the sister puts her comments, and after that showing her approval of what had been sent, there's 5 hearts, red hearts, not just any hearts, red hearts there might be. You tell me. But 1 heart is going to send our heart all over the place. 5 hearts there. What's that going to do to our hearts? And this is the reality. And we all know I know what I'm talking about, you all know what I'm talking about as well. Hence, my dear friends, let us be disciplined with this. Let us understand how harmful this is before it can get out of hand. And if it has, let us quickly get back to where we need to. Remember, the person we need to be connected is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we need to be connected with our family. And those who are married, your wife is the one that you need to be most connected to. Your husband is the one that you need to be most connected to. We are connecting ourselves with the whole world and we're disconnecting where we need to be connected. That is how detrimental this is. Allah Ta'ala grant us all the understanding and tawfiq to understand whatever has been mentioned. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala reward you all for sitting attentively. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا هب لنا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان لا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم ربنا أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من كل شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان عليك البلاغ ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله